Welcome back to JOHS WICOR Bites, where each week we bring you a new WICOR strategy to maximize student learning. In today's video, we're talking about the ultimate strategy for student-centered dialogue, Socratic Seminar. Right, as a warm-up for today, think about how you would characterize the discourse in your classroom. Where would you place your teaching on the spectrum? Remember, there is no right or wrong answer. If you can just take a second, please pause and discuss this with your colleagues. As always, let's start with the what, the when, and the why of the strategy. Elfie Israel, in her book Examining Multiple Perspectives in Literature, defines Socratic Seminars as a formal discussion based on a text and open-ended questions. Within the context of the discussion, students listen closely to the comments of others, thinking critically for themselves, and articulate their own thoughts and their responses to the thoughts of others. I would also add that Socratic Seminars are one of the few strategies that are defined by their structure. When you see a bunch of kids sitting in a circle, openly talking about a text, they're having a Socratic Seminar. When would you implement a Socratic Seminar? This isn't a strategy that you would use to open an instructional unit. It's best situated for after students have had some initial exposure to the material and are ready to explore and discuss it in greater depth. Socratic Seminars are a perfect last strategy to use right before a summative assessment, as they provide an opportunity for students to summarize and synthesize knowledge at a high level. And finally, why would you want to use a Socratic Seminar? Now, I normally don't do this, but I think for this particular strategy, I can just quote the team rubric and it might be evident why you'd want to use a Socratic Seminar. They facilitate analytical thinking, where students analyze, compare, contrast, and evaluate and explain information. Creative thinking, where students create, imagine, and suppose. A generation of a variety of ideas and alternatives. Analysis of problems from multiple perspectives and viewpoints. Generation of questions that lead to further inquiry and self-directed learning. And an environment in which positive relationships and interdependence characterize the classroom. So in short, if you need a good strategy for a planned observation, or you really want to push your kids to achieve some high-level learning outcomes, you could do a lot worse than leading students through a Socratic Seminar. All right, let's break down the different elements of a Socratic Seminar. First, you start with the text, which, as we're talking about here, is any material that can be analyzed or interpreted, including written works like books or articles, visual media such as films and artworks, audio recordings, digital content, or even class notes. The next thing you need for a Socratic Seminar are questions. These can be created by either the teacher or the students, and each one should spark new discussions and allow the inquiry to develop naturally rather than being pre-planned. The last two elements are about different roles in a Socratic Seminar. You have a leader, who can either be the teacher or a student, and the leader keeps the conversation moving along and on topic while making sure everyone is involved and asks follow-up questions to deepen the conversation. Lastly, everyone but the leader is classified as a participant. Participants are prepared, having read and annotated the text. They're active listeners, question generators, idea sharers, encouragers, and they reference the text to support their opinions. Now that we've talked about the elements of a Socratic Seminar, let's look through the steps to actually facilitate one. I'll outline them here, and then we'll go into greater detail for each. So first, students study the text. Then either you or the students prepare questions. You'll then choose a structure that will accommodate your students in classroom space before you just do the Socratic Seminar. And finally, and importantly, you'll have your students complete a reflection of some kind. Step one is to have students study the text, and to do this, you'll just follow the same steps that you'd use in guiding students through the critical reading process for any complex text. First, create a guiding question for critical reading and interpretation of the text. Next, have students annotate and take notes on main ideas, key vocabulary, personal or text-to-text connections, different perspectives, or whatever else makes sense for your instructional focus. Finally, help students identify significant passages or concepts for discussion. The next step is to prepare questions for the Socratic Seminar. You can do this one of two ways. You can prepare the questions yourself as the teacher and the chief content expert in the room, or you can lead students through generating their own questions. In the starter pack that goes with today's video, you'll see a couple of slides on following a 3-step process for generating better Socratic Seminar questions. So I encourage you to check those out or to reach out to me if you'd like help facilitating that process with your students. You'll need to choose a Socratic Seminar structure. You can either have all students sit in a circle as a whole group or have an inner and an outer circle. If you have a small or even what could be perceived as to be a normal size classroom, a whole group format can work well to give all students an equal opportunity to participate as speakers and listeners. But if your class is on the larger side, you can try the inner-outer circle structure and utilize the pilot-copilot method, or assign the outer circle to track the speaker. In pilot-copilot, students either have a partner on the outside or sit in a triad. The main conversations happen in the inner circle, and outer circle students can pass forward sticky notes to be read by their pilot to contribute their ideas. Alternatively, you can just have the outer circle make a map of the students involved in the inner circle and then track the speaker using lines on the map. With either of these two inner/outer circle structures, you can leave an empty seat known as the hot seat open for the outer circle students to jump in, contribute their idea verbally, and then jump back out. Next, like the Nike ad says, it's time to just do it and actually hold the Socratic Seminar. First, review guidelines, roles, expectations, and accountable talk stems with your students. Next, arrange the class in your preferred structure and make sure students bring their materials to their new seats. Keep in mind that it may make sense to do this before class starts. After that, pose the opening question and allow participants to share their own questions before nominating one to begin the discussion. Finally, it's time to hold the Socratic Seminar, letting the leader lead and the participants participate, just as these little bobcats are doing right here. After the seminar, please give students time to reflect on their participation, cementing their learning and synthesizing any new ideas or perspectives that arose during the discussion. I really like this 3-2-1 reflection here, but please adapt your reflection to meet your content area and your particular objectives. If you think this 3-2-1 reflection will work, I've uploaded this slide to our starter pack for this week.
For students who need extra support, you can provide sentence stems for accountable talk, such as, I understand what you're saying, but I think blank because. You can allow students to practice using these stems or reading their arguments in small groups or with you to help them gain confidence. To scaffold text-dependent questions, you can let students know which sections of the text to zero in on to support their claims, and try to write the questions concisely. Allow students to brainstorm ideas in their home languages and use total physical response, TPR, or hand gestures to show what they are thinking. For example, students can stack their hands on top of one another to show that they want to build on another student's ideas. Supports that are helpful for all students include modeling through the use of think alouds and showing what it looks like to actively listen and what it sounds like to speak clearly at an appropriate volume. Accountable talk stems could be posted on the wall, or each student could have a set to reference in front of them. Ensure that students know what's expected of them during the seminar and how they will be held accountable. Make sure you use wait time to give students proper time to formulate and express their ideas. For students who need an extra challenge, you could have that student facilitate the discussion. Students can generate questions to ask during the seminar, and you can also challenge these students by asking them to play devil's advocate and take an opposing side to push others' thinking. Just remember, all students should be held to high expectations. If the objective is for students to speak, then all students should be expected to speak, but they will need varying levels of support to be able to participate successfully.
Okay, as a bridge to practice today, please talk with your colleagues about how comfortable you would be in trying a Socratic Seminar with your students. You can reach out either to me or any of our amazing coaches and instructional leaders here at Overton if you'd like support, or for one of us to model a Socratic Seminar for you. We'd love to do that. And we'll leave it there for the week. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.